Rahim. Okay, class, welcome. Today we will be discussing our chapter number 2. As we have completed the first chapter of the course Nebosh IGC, today we will be starting our next chapter, which is basically about the management system. So, in that particular chapter, we will be studying how the management system is working, why we are using management system, and what type of management system is included in our course, and what are the major differences between these two management systems. One will be from ILO and other will be from ISO. And at the very end, we'll be discussing the benefits of management systems. If any organization has to achieve the management system, what are the likely benefit will be to that organization from these management system. So first of all, we will be discussing the management system. As I have told you earlier, that management is basically the process, the critical process, you may be said that, or the systematic process basically, in which we tends to achieve the goal of the organization. That particular phase is basically the management. Now, the management system is the criteria on the basis of which we are deriving that proper set of rules, set of policy to basically achieve the goals that the organization is wanting. Now, the safety management system or SMS is basically to the policies and the procedure that are set out to achieve the goal that our workplace will be safer for any individual that is working for the organization, or somehow is the part of organization. They may be the contractors, they may be the vendors, or any other person which are directly or indirectly involved in the workplace. So this is the basic purpose of the management system, to basically achieve the goals of zero illness or zero accident within the organization. Now, the management system can be made by the organization itself, or there are some other management system that are available throughout the globe, which can be adopted by any organization. In that particular session, okay, kindly mute your mic when you're talking to someone. Okay. So in that particular topic today, we will be discussing how the management system is basically be made, and what is the principle or the framework for that particular management system. So, and when an organization is adopting it, what will be the prior benefit to these organizations of having these management systems? So, as we have discussed in chapter number 1, that the organization or the employer has to protect their worker. No matter how, they have to provide the safe workplace, they have to give the training, they have to provide the personal protective equipments, they have to reduce the legal cost, they have to reduce the financial losses. Now, all these issues can only be sought out when the organization has the proper management system. If we want to the basically prosperity or safety of any individual within the organization, the management system will help you. Whenever you talk about the losses or financial losses, the management system is there to help you. If you want to meet the legal requirement, the management system is here to help you. So that the particular management systems are being adopted throughout the globe by individuals, by the organization itself, to basically achieve the goal that nobody can be harmed within the workplace. As an example, if we are going to any mall or supermarket, basically, we see that there is a proper system of sorting the different equipment, material, or groceries in that particular racking system. Now, for us to achieve any thing with that we want, we have to go there and adopt that particular thing, which is made very easy for us. Likewise, if we are going to somewhere in the shop and we ask the person that I need a sugar of 1 kg, they may look for it that where that particular material being sorted, and they will look for it, and then they will make arrangement for it to basically give the 1 kg of that particular sugar to you. So all these arrangement or these things been taking time, and with time there is a lot of other things which the shopkeeper has to do to provide the particular thing to their customers. So in all those factors which are basically being adopted or being neglected by the organization or some individual, that there is due to the lack of management system within the organization. If we have any system of managing something, so we can adopt a particular or important thing from that particular idea. So management system is basically the idea of setting the rules, the idea of achieving the goals. So any organization working in the or competing with other their rivals, they have to adopt the proper system. They have to think about that particular thing, how the thing will have to be achieved. So that particular critical thinking or strategic thinking will only be done if the organization has proper management system. All these studies being made to evaluate what does the management system doing for their organization. As I have told you that the management system is for employee safety. The management system is for the legal compliance, basically. The management system is to keep the employer away from any legal issues. The management system is for the reduction in the cost that can be lost due to the accidents. So these all behaviors, the all benefits be set out if the organization has proper management system in the workplace. Now, in our class, uh, we will be discussing basically in today's lecture, we will be discussing the proper management system that is present in our course. One is from International Labor Organization, and the other is from International Organization for Standardization called ISO. And if we adopt any management system, what will likely be the benefit to that particular organization? That is the first learning outcome we will be discussing in our today's class. The chapter is very small, but it has a very great impact when we physically and deriving any formulas for the organization to set out the principles to minimize the accident within the workplace. Now, in our course, there are basically two type of management systems available. uh, the one is from ILO, and that publication code of that ILO's management system is ILO OSH. OSH means Occupational Safety and Health 2001. And the other management system is from International Organization from Standardization, and that publication code is basically 45001, which is most popular. You must have heard about that particular management system. Now, the important information is the ILO management system contain only the guidelines for the organization that they have to adopt or they have to use when making the health and safety management system for their organization. It only contains the framework, it only contains the guideline. It is not the authority, it is not the structured program that the organization have to follow. It only contains the guideline. If I am the owner of any organization, and I want a management system in my workplace. So ILO just guided me how the management system is basically working within the organization. And I have to adopt that particular guideline and make my own management system so that our organization may obey the legal requirements to achieve the safety of the employees, to reduce the cost. This is basically the guidelines which the organization has to adopt and make the system by their own. Unlike ISO 45001, it is basically the standard. It is the structured program that doesn't require any changes, that doesn't require any amendments. It is already been set out. You have to adopt it. How to adopt ISO 45001 or ISO management system? ISO management system is basically the certified management system. The organization can be certified through external audit. If I want the ISO management system, I have to complete or fulfill the criteria and be externally audited by the authorized external auditing company. And then I can apply for the certification on the basis of that particular audit. So the ISO 45001 will be achieved, and the organization will have the authority to write it with their own, that the organization is basically certified with ISO 45001. Now, ISO is basically most popular than ILO. ILO has just a guideline, but ISO has more popularity throughout the world, and it is being rapidly adopting within the countries. Just in Pakistan, there are over 200 companies which is adopting ISO with their different certification. And ISO has some other certification, as we have discussed in chapter number 1, that they have ISO 9001, which is related to quality management system. 14001 is basically related to environmental management system. These three management system, 9001, 14,001 and 45,001. These are also called integrated management system. These can be integrated with each other, and because of their structure, because it is a structure management system, so that is it can be adopted with other such practices which are being made by the ISO as well. So ISO and ISO has a clear difference. ISO is basically the structured program, while the ISO has just a guideline. ISO has been adopted globally, while the when you adopting the ILO, you have to make your own management system on the basis of these guidelines. ISO has a certification or has a certification authority, but ILO doesn't have any such kind of process. You have to make your own management system and be audited by your own. And there is no third party available for that particular management system to audit it and to provide any certification. So that is the major difference between these two ILO and ISO management system. In very rare example, or in very simple example, if you set out in some place and you feel hungry, there's a two option to feed yourself. The one is to make to cook for yourself and to eat it. The other option is to buy some food and to eat it. The same difference is with ILO and ISO. If you are hungry and you want to eat something, you have to make it. And for the making process, we can say that guideline is from basically the ILO. And if you have money and you have to buy it from the market, that is basically the ISO 45001. Basically, ISO is a made up management system. You have to pay for it, complete the requirement, and be adopted by the external audit system. And ILO is not a particular management system. It is a guideline. Basically, you have to follow it and make your own management system. These are the basic two distinct differences between these two management system, which you have to understand. Now, important thing is these two management system is basically working on a single fundamental or single framework. And that framework is basically the management cycle, which is called PDCA management cycle. Now, what does PDCA means? Plan, do, check, and act. These two management systems are basically based on PDCA cycle. So PDCA cycle, what does it mean? Plan, do, check, and act. Okay. So that is particular the idea behind the management system. These two management system are being influenced by that particular management system or management cycle. Now, what is plan, do, check, and act? So we have to clearly understand the plan is about the making the decisions, making the strategies. And as we discussed in our yesterday's class or the last class, that strategic management is done by writing down the policy. And the policy is being written by the top management. So basically, the top management including with the participation of worker, they are making the strategies. They are basically starting the planning that what we have to achieve in our future or in our coming year, what we have to achieve, they have to plan for it. So management cycle is starting with the plan. Unlike other thing that we are doing in our daily life, if we are making some tour to any northern areas with our friends or family, the whole idea is being planned first. Without planning, you cannot make any decisions. If you are making any decision without planning, it may go wrong. So the management cycle is basically implementing or imposing the thoughts which you have in your mind. These thoughts are basically being written down in the form of policy, and these policy has to be adopted, and that adaptation of this policy is called basically do. That we have to write down the policy, we have to make the policy work or make the strategies. That phase is called planning or plan. Now these particular policy need to be adopted, and for the adaptation purpose we are doing it. Basically we are making arrangements for it, we are making procedures for it to adopt that particular plan which is made by the top management to achieve certain goals. Now, the third phase is check. Check is basically the assessment, the examination, the evaluation of that particular policies which has been made and implemented. We have to check it that the type of policy we have made and working on it, is it going in a right way or a wrong way? If it is going in a right way, then we have to move towards the fourth section, that is act, to continue our improvement. And in particular check phase, if we are lacking in some place, we have to act again. But for that purpose, we have to make decisions for correcting these mistakes and have to adopt in next policy. And this cycle goes on and on whenever that we talk about the management system. So the whole set of idea for the basically the management system is drawn under the PDCA cycle. The first thing you have to plan. And how does the planning working? Basically, the involvement of people, the consultation of people and worker is very important and that particular phase. And the top management role is basically important in that planning phase. They are basically the planner, they are basically making the strategy, they are the goal setter basically. And the second phase is to practically perform any thought that you had in your mind and you had written down in your policy. Now you have to achieve it. You have mentioned that we will reduce the accident. That is basically everyone is wanting that. But for that achievement of that goal is not an easy task. You have to perform different activities. You need resources. you need proper procedures, you need risk assessment for that. For in that particular phase, we are saying it as a do section, that we are doing everything, we are making resources, we are making risk assessment in that particular phase. Now, in the third step, as we have discussed that we have to reduce the risk. We have made the risk assessment. Now we have to check it. Either this risk assessment is suitable for the organization in reducing the risk. Is it okay? Then we have to act as a continuing improvement within the organization. And if there is any issue, if there is any near misses, if there is any incident occurring in the organization, that means there is something we are lacking, and in the check stage we will check for that particular lack, and we in X stage we have to improve it either, and we have to correct it, so these particular mistakes be not repeated again and again, and we have to adopt the proper goal which is set in the policy. Hope you all got that, okay, what is basically the PDCA cycle means. So if anyone has a question about PDCA cycle, he can ask, so we will move accordingly. Yes, please.
Sir, can you repeat that do cycle, please?
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
Yes, madam. Do you have any question?
yes, sir, the same.
Okay, the same section. Okay. So once again, what is PDCA? I have to repeat it all again so you have to understand. Plan is basically, the word plan is basically to make something that is not existing yet, but we want to achieve it, and we want to make it work. So that is basically the critical thinking of any individual or any top management, that they want in their future. For that purpose they have to plan for it. Okay. Now, if I am planning to go to any place for northern area or for any place for tour, I have to make a planning. At that particular day, I have made the plan that on date of 15, for example, I had to go to the for example, Naran. I have made the plan. Now, by making the plan, you cannot going to Naran, but just making the plan. You have to be putting your efforts. You have to make arrangement for it. Now, that particular arrangement for making that plan work is basically the do section. The need of vehicle, the need of the fuel, the need of the budget for the way to the Naran is basically the do section. So the organization is basically making policies that we have to achieve the zero accident. The zero accident cannot be achieved. You have to sleep for it. You have to do practical things. If you are doing such practical thing, the practical thing for planning is basically the do section. You have to make arrangement for it. You have to make resources available for it, and you have to make the working methods on the basis of which you have to achieve that particular goal. So that is basically the do phase. Okay. Now, by planning and doing the thing which you want, you have to check it as well. Now, for checking purpose, you have to evaluate everything, that how the policy is working right now. For that purpose, you have to check for the processes, the procedure you are being adopted within the organization. If there is any mishap that could occur in within the organization, it will only be mentioned in check stage. During the check stage, you will see the negativities or mishaps. These mishaps be corrected in the X stage for performing the continual improvement or performing the corrective and preventive actions. So that particular phase is set out in the management system. And this cycle is being adopted in ILO and ISO. Both management system has adopted that particular cycle. And we can adopt it in our daily life. If we want something, we have to plan for it. Okay. For planning, we have to write it down with us, that what I have to do in a coming year. And for that particular thing, you have to make efforts for that. And reviewing your activities so that the planning you are doing for your future being set out in a proper way, and you have to achieve that particular goal within the given time. So that is the PDCA cycle for you. The whole management system of safety is being set out under that particular fundamental, which is basically the PDCA cycle. Anyone has another question, he can ask again, so I can repeat it with that. Yes, please.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Mahibala. जी, okay, Mansoor जी. Okay, okay, okay. So anyone, they can they repeat, or they can give an example that how the PDCA cycle has to be set up in any system? Can anyone explain it with example, or basically repeat it for me, that how much they have understand it? Yes, Ms. Zaira, please. Please unmute yourself. We can't hear you. Ibrahim?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I can repeat, sir, what have you said?
yes, please. Yes, please.
Basically, the PDCA cycle, P means plan, D means do, C means check, and A means act.
Act.
The first phase of PDCA cycle is plan. So in this phase, the top management make the strategies, makes the policies that how we will carry out our work or something. So
Okay.
the first step is making a strategy, written form of policy, we can say that. And the second one is do. And the main thing of do is to adopt that policy, to adopt the plan, making resources, means to arrange the things for the policy. And the third one is the check. Check is the assessment of the policies. Means
Yes.
if the things are going in right way or wrong way. If the things are going in right way, we can act according to the plan. If the things are going in wrong way, we will have to recycle our PDCS. Means we have to make our strategy
Okay.
again plan. So that is
Again, we have to
my
make changes in that particular
yes,
changes.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
As we
So we
have
can make it
discussed that,
better.
we have to review, and that is the basically the need of life is to review your goals every day, to review your doing that, what you have done throughout the day. You have to repeat it. You have to review it. Where did you make the mistakes? By reviewing your mistakes, you are basically taking the lesson from that particular mistakes, and when you are doing this, you will not repeat that particular incident again in your life. That is basically the purpose of act stage, that why we have to take corrective actions. Basically, corrective actions are being taken or adopting for the purpose to not repeat our mistakes again, and not to harm or not to make such goals which cannot be achieved by the organization. So these whole purpose of PDCA is to achieve the goal for the organization in a proper way. Okay. So now moving towards the management systems that we have in our course, as I said, one is of ILO and other is of ISO. So these two management system is basically set out on the basis of PDCA cycle. And the PDCA cycle has all the components included in ILO and included in ISO. For the first half, I will be discussing the ILO's management system and their key element, which is actually based on PDCA cycle, how these are working within the organization, how these can be implemented within the organization if we want a management system work, or if we are planning to write down or making any management system for our organization. Now, the PDCA cycle is being distributed in that particular health and safety management system. And these management system are just providing you a guidance, a guidelines which the organization has to adopt. And by adopting these things, you can make your own management system, which is basically which we is basically based on PDCA cycle. Now, there is a key components in ILO's management system as per Plan, Do, Check, Act. For the plan phase, we have two important things for which we will be planning. Our ILO saying that for two purpose you have to plan. First thing is policy. As we discussed earlier, the policy is being made by the top management. Okay. Now, the policy contains two important information. The one is aim, which is not measurable, or we cannot measure the aims. Aims is set out for the longer period of time and contains the objective. Objective is basically the targets for which we have to achieve that particular aim, which is setting by the organization in the policy phase. So there are two things that is present in the policy. One is aim and the other is objective. Now, policy on the basis of aims and objective, we have to look for one important thing majorly, which is the legal requirement. We have to focus on legal requirement and the requirement of our organization. We cannot set out such aims which cannot be adopted by our workforce or by our organization. So these values added to the policy will be discarded and they will have no future for the organization to adopt such policies which cannot be implemented or which can go against the legal requirement or the requirement of the workplace. So if we have limited people, if we have limited resources, we have to adopt such thing which can be done under these circumstances. And we don't think out of the box. We have to limit ourselves that to that particular resources which is basically available with us. So the top management of every organization must ensure while setting the aims or objective within the policy section that what is legal requirement from us, what resources are available with us. So on that particular thing, we have to basically set out the targets and aims. And importantly, the other phase basically, which is organizing. Organizing is basically to give the responsibilities, to give the roles to different type of people and to set the smart objective for these people so that this aim can be achieved properly. Now, I am repeating these 2 points again. So you have to clearly understand what does plan wanting and what ILO is suggested that what type of information that is included in plan stage. The first is policy. The policy is basically based on aims and objective. Aims can be set out for the longer period of time and the objective which is for the people. Objective is set out for the people so they have to make that work and achieve the particular goal which is set in the policy. Now that target or that objective that must be smart. Smart is basically a target which is achievable and measurable. You can measure it and achieve it within given time. So that abbreviation goes with specific, measurable, achievable, time bound, and reasonable. That is basically the SMART abbreviation. So the SMART objective be set out for the people, and people must be organized with their roles and responsibility. Now, in setting out the roles and responsibility, we have to consider a few things. The one is competence. On the basis of competence, we are giving the proper role or proper responsibility to the proper individual. If we have a cleaner, his purpose is to clean. He cannot supervise the people because he has not that much competent to achieve the goal which is set for the supervisor. So every individual within the organization has their role, as we have discussed in the previous class, that top management is basically providing the resources and allocating the responsibilities. Now, the organizing phase of plan stage is basically setting out the roles and responsibility. Now, the roles and responsibility be set out on the basis of competence, communication skills, that the desired person is basically well enough to communicate that particular goal. That is cooperative. It must cooperate with their workers and with the management as well. These three important information must be in single individual when the organization is setting roles and responsibility. In our class, we have different type of people. They have different mindset, they have different capabilities. We have to enhance it, we have to study it, and provide specific goal to the specific person, so that the achievement or the target being set out for us be achieved in a proper and particular way, and the aims are being closer to us, so that we can achieve our aim within the required time by progressing over targets. So these two stages are basically are the stages of plan. Now, in summarizing these 2 points once again, the plan stage contains the policy. Policy is basically made by the top management, which contains aims and objective. Objective must be smart enough so that the people whom we are giving the responsibility being achieved in a proper and effective way, and providing the basically the responsibilities to the worker. That is basically the aim between the policies and organizing. The policy contain aims and objective, and organizing contain the roles and responsibility. For policy purpose, we have to consider the legal requirement and requirement that are the resources available with us within the organization. And the third important thing is, second important thing is roles and responsibility. So roles and responsibility be only be set out under the competence level of any individual, their communication skills, and their cooperation with the workers and top management. So these all are set out in planning stage. They are being written right down by the organization, so that everyone will aware of their roles and responsibility and of their target as well. So that is particularly the basically the plan stage, which is included in ILO's management system. Now, moving on to the second important phase and the longest phase of the management system, that is do stage. Do stage is not basically the or not the easy way to adopt any planning. It requires a lot of efforts. It required a lot of arrangements to achieve that particular goal. If I had an idea, that is very easy thing to write it. But to achieve that particular idea is a difficult thing. We can set out aims, we can set out roles and responsibility. Now, how to do it? How to perform that particular role, how to perform that particular objective, so that the aims can be achieved. For that purpose, we have a detailed arrangement required for our organization. For example, if we set out the policy that we have to train our workers, and our objective is to provide training of three types: the first aid, the fire safety, and for example, evacuation procedure training. These three training are basically the objective that has to be provided for our workers. And there is one trainer set out for these particular three trainings, that he is the responsible person, that he will provide these three training to their workers. Now, the training phase is important. You have the critical amount of data for which you have to set out the notes for your employees. You have to do a practical things. You need the practical arrangement. You will need the equipment. You will need the procedure. You will need the assessment for it. This whole particular idea is basically a time-taking activity, and you have to make a proper arrangement for it. And in that particular phase, you will need the proper and specific budget for from the top management. So the objective they have set being achieved accordingly within the organization. And in that particular thing, we will be discussing that important phases, which is including in two stage are risk assessments. That is basically the idea behind the achievement of lower accident rates within the organization, the training, along with that, the making of safe procedure, emergency procedure, arrangement for the active monitoring, inspection, or investigation. These all arrangements are being set out. These are all the basically the things which need basically arrangement, and that is the longer phase. So by doing this thing, we can achieve our uh, aim, which is basically set out by the organization. Now, the third phase is basically the check stage. Now, what is check? In check stage, we are basically doing things. One is monitoring, and monitorings are of two types. The one is active monitoring, and the other is reactive monitoring. So, active monitoring is to perform the uh, activity, perform the actions to prevent the accident from happening. Okay, or in a very easier way, to prevent any accident, we are performing the active monitoring. And if the accident occur, then finding out the cause is basically the reactive monitoring. Okay, before the accident, the procedure we are following is active monitoring. And after the accident, finding out the cause of that particular accident is reactive monitoring. And these active and reactive monitoring is basically the evaluation or check stage. That is the one thing we are doing in check stage, that is monitoring. And monitoring is of two types, active and reactive. Before the accident, we are doing active monitoring, and after the accident, that is particularly reactive monitoring. The other thing is, other than monitoring, the second thing which we are doing in check stage is basically the internal audit of our system by the organization. Internal audit is basically the audit performed by the organization itself. So, to basically overview the management system, how it is going, how it works within the organization, and where are we lacking basically. For that particular purpose, we are checking our system through internal audit. That is the second phase. And the third phase is basically review. Reviewing for performance, review what you have done, review what you have done right, and review what you have done wrong. So these three basically are the stages which is done in the check stage. What? The monitoring, the internal audit, and the review. These are the three phases basically which is done under the check. And in that particular three phases, either we are doing monitoring, either we are doing the audit, or doing the performance review. We are basically checking our objectives or our policy, that how it is going right now in the organization. If there is any mishap occurred, or there is any lack occurred within the organization, we have to take action for it. And actions are of basically the three types. One is preventive action. Preventive action is basically taking for that particular mishap which affect the organization or which affect the policy. For example, an accident. Our aim is to prevent the accident. If the accident occurs, so we have to take the preventive measures to not repeat that accident again. The one thing we are doing in X stage is preventive actions. The second important thing is the corrective actions. Corrective actions are done for the activities which didn't go wrong, but had the capability to go wrong. For that particular thing, we have to take the corrective action. It is very simple example. If we have a glass of water on the edge of the table, it is not been spoiled till now, but it is a dangerous thing. So we have to make a correction and remove it from the edge. So that is basically the corrective action. And if the water is spoiled and the glass is being break, that particular action will require the preventive action. So we do not repeat that particular incident again. And the third important thing is continual improvement. The continual improvement is basically the glass is present on the table, it's not on the side, and it doesn't create any risk. So we have to continue it. We don't need to make it worse for our organization. Everything is good, cool enough, go. That's the way to perform the continuous improvement. And these three stages are basically present in the X stage. So overall, the plan, do, check, act stage is set out by the ILO with their important key element: policy, organizing, implementation, evaluation, and action for improvement. Now, in coming slide, what we have discussed is being written in front of you. That policy is basically set out for the occupational health and safety aims and objectives. We have a question from Ms. Saira. Yes, please. क्या क्या है? Okay. So as we have discussed, the policy contain aims and objective, okay, and it is being written by the top management. And organizing is containing the clear roles and responsibility, which is actually by setting by the top management, so that the particular objective be achieved by the relevant people, which has their roles and responsibility. And the planning stage is basically the longest stage, which contain the detailed arrangement, as we have discussed, in the form of risk assessment, safe system of works, permit to work system, health and safety trainings, emergency procedure, first aid procedures. These all things are basically requiring the arrangements. And that is from that particular arrangement, we are basically achieving the goals which is set in the policy. And in the check stage, we are performing three important things, that is monitoring. And monitoring is of two types: active and reactive. The active monitoring are the monitoring which is done to prevent the accident, and the reactive monitoring is the monitoring to done to find out the cause and prevent it from reoccurring. And that particular internal audit, that is basically being set out by the organization to check their management system, and the performance review, the decision that have made by the people being reviewed, that is it in going in a right way or in a wrong way. And in last but not the least, we have to take the action for improvement, and that for that purpose we have to take preventive and corrective action and continual improvement. Preventive and corrective action is basically for the purpose to make the organization safer, and continual improvement is basically for the organization to continue his progress, which is basically going in a right way. So that is the management of set out by the ILO, and that is called ILO OSH 2001. That is one type of management system which is present in the organization. Now we have other management system available with us, that is basically of International Organization for Standardization. And that is, or that management system is basically the most popular and most adoptable management system throughout the world, that is currently being implemented within the organization. For ISO management system of 45001, I have a brief history of it. So I have to discuss it first, that how that particular management system of 45001 occurred with us or being made by the ISO. Before that particular management system, we have the management system called ISO 18001. which is made in 1999, and it goes for long hours, long period of time. And in 2007, it had amended some important information, and continued till 2018. So that particular management system, which is called ISO 18001 management system, was for about management system of health and safety at the workplace. But that particular management system had the reactive approach. It only works when the thing goes wrong. They gave the idea how to correct it. Now that particular management system, which is made in 2018 and being adopted by throughout the globe till 2021. The ISO had made an announcement that all the organization having the management system of 18,001 had to upgrade their management system to 45,001, and in 2021 that ISO 18,000 has been completely off by the ISO and is not available right now. So ISO 45,001 has the greater impact. It has the active reactive monitoring, both are available in it. It has a long impact. It has a different criteria, and ISO is different from other management system. ISO is basically the structured management system. They have their own clauses. Now, the ISO management system has 10 clauses. 45,001 has 10 clauses overall. As we have discussed that ISO also work on PDCA cycle. The first 5 classes is general classes, basically. These is set out for the organization of every size. If you have smaller organization, that particular management system is fit into that particular organization as well. And if you have a larger organization, it can fit into it as well. So that is a one benefit of that particular management system. It can fit in any organization, and it has a structure. And this structure is dependent upon their classes. And whenever there is a audit of ISO management system, these audits are going against these classes. The auditors are checking against the classes where the organization is basically lacking. So that 5 clauses are basically the general clauses that contain the context of organization, which is important in that particular thing. And the other important thing is the leadership and worker participation. So the context of organization contains that in every particular organization, no matter of their size, it can fit into it with a proper precision. And the second important thing is it is being adopted by the leadership of top management and to involve with the workers, so that the clear image of the organization being set out and the objective being made in a proper way. So that is the general clauses which has general terms in it. Now the PDCA cycle of that particular class is bit different from ILO. Now the safety management clauses are starting from class number 6 to class number 10. Now these clauses are very important because they are for 2 or 3 times these classes are being asked in the examination as well, and we will be discussing it after that particular topic, that how that question comes in the assessment and how to write it. So basically the ISO management system being occurred or being set out under the fundamental of PDCA cycle, but they have their own clauses. The PDCA cycle clauses start from 6 to 10. Class 6 is about the plan, which is actually a planning, and it contains all the important information of policy, of hazard identification, setting out the objectives. These all are set out in that particular class. Now, the do class have 2 sections. So do stage have two classes basically, 7 and 8. 7 is basically support. What does support do? Support is basically related to the people. As we have discussed, roles and responsibility in ILO, the ISO set the role and responsibility in do section. That is basically need the people with their roles and responsibility, the resources which is being set out for the organization, and it is basically the support. Support means to support the idea that is being planned by the top management. And the class number 8 is also related to do stage, that is basically operation. Operation is basically the practical arrangement, the risk assessment, the safe system of work, the emergency procedure. These are basically the operational work which we have to do in the workplace. So these are the operational things which are being done by the organization. The class number 9 is related to check, and these contain the same active monitoring, reactive monitoring, internal audit, and performance review. And the class 10 is related to X stage, which has the important information of continual improvement, preventive action, and corrective action. For the class 7 and 8, it has some differences along with the ILO management system. Now, the ISO management system of what type you, if you are choosing it, it has their own structure. Not all the management system is working under the PDCA cycle, but their every management system has their own structure, and this that is why it is very popular throughout the world, that it is being adopted, because everyone has doesn't need that particular competency level to understand that particular structure. You have you can understand in an easy way, and you have to adopt it in a proper way, and you have to audit it, audit your organization, and on the basis of that particular audit you can achieve the certification of ISO. Okay, so ISO is different as per structure. As you have seen, the ILO management system haven't any structured program with it, but the ISO management system has some structure which is based on their clauses, and safety management clauses are starting from class number 6, which is of plan stage. Class number 7 is of do stage. Class number 8 is of do stage as well. Class number 9 is of check stage, and class number 10 is of X stage. And that is the particular system of which is being audited, and the organization may adopt their basically the certification from the third party if you are audited well, and there is no important thing you have missed, then the organization has the certification by their own. So that is the other management system which is present within the organization, and it is most popular. Now, the important thing about 45,000 family is it has different management system which is basically related to health and safety. ISO 45002 is about the psychological effect within the occupation, how to manage it. That particular management system is based with 45,001. COVID-19 has a separate management system which is basically comes under the 45,000 family. So it has a lot of management system available in it. If you adopting the one management system, the other goes along with that, and it has the greater impact on the organization, and it will reduce different sort of things from the organization. And for the last topic, we will be discussing if we have any sort of management system. It doesn't need of ISO or ILO. If we have made our own management system, basically the management system has some important benefits with us. The most important benefit of any management system is to have the legal compliance being recognized nationally and internationally, reduce the risk level, reduce the financial cost, reduce the staff turnover, reducing the business losses, increasing the production, being set out to increase the continual improvement and the effectiveness in roles and responsibility to enhance the risk management. These all are the basically benefit when organization have management system. So all the thing which we discuss in moral, legal, and financial being covered when you have a management system of safety within your workplace. We have discussed the employer has the duty to protect their workers. For that purpose, if they have management system, it will help them to control everything and save their workplace. As we discussed, the employer has the losses if they have any incident in the workplace. The management system will decrease the rate of incident and will decrease the direct and indirect losses as well. Alongside, we have discussed that there is a criminal and civil impact if the organization does not follow any or in non-compliance. So the important factor of management system is that it enhance the legal compliance for the organization. It reduce the compensation cost. It reduce the premiums of insurance premiums of the organization. It reduce the legal aspect. It reduce the enforcement actions from the organization. It enhance the motivation. It improves the morale. It improves the productivity within the organization. It improves the relationship between the workers and management of different basically departments. So that is the importance of management system if we have it in our workplace. So it particularly it helps the organization to compete in any sort of situation and to enhance the betterment within the organization. So that particular thing is required whenever you are working within the organization. As a safety officer, you are responsible for making the workplace safer for everyone. For that particular phase, you have the proper management system. You can made it by your own with alongside with your team, which contain technical and other sort of members. With their interest, you can make the management system for your organization by your own. Rahil has some question. Yes, Rahil, you can ask.
Sir, can you please repeat clause 7 sport?
Okay. Support is basically related to the people, one thing, related to the resources, which is basically required for the achievement of goals or targets. Okay. So, for example, if we are giving some responsibility of cleaning, that is basically the support purpose. He is doing the cleaning and supporting the class or supporting the policy. If we have the trainer and he has the responsibility to provide training, so he is basically supporting the class. If we have a budget to enhance or to complete any task, basically that budget is supporting that particular section. So and any sort of support which is required in the form of manpower, in the form of budget, so we called it as a support for the organization, which will complete their targets or objectives which they have set for their organization. So hope you have gotten my point. Okay, Rahil?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, ji. So that is it for our today's class. As we have discussed the first section, I will repeat all it again what we have discussed, and we'll discuss a short question related to our topic. So for that purpose, you have to wait for a sec